In one of my recent videos, I did a review of Buffer's public roadmap. The goal of that video was to check if there was alignment between their strategy and the roadmap. What I didn't do in that video was look into the potential costs or the potential waste that there might be because of the misalignment of the features that are in the roadmap. What I want to take a look into this video is into those potential costs that Buffer is incurring into by not having strategically aligned items in the roadmap. And by the way, this is not the intention of this video is not to shame Buffer by any means. The goal of this video is to help exposing the problem that many companies out there have. And by the way, I don't know for real what is the roadmap of Buffer, and I don't know for real how strategically aligned the roadmap is. And now I'm looking only into their development roadmap, but I'm not looking into anything like their commercial roadmap, go-to-market roadmap, strategic markets that they want to enter, or geographies or industries. So there are many other nuances to do this kind of review, but in this case, I'm just sticking to the publicly available information that it's in their website, which I really appreciate that they have it there. And again, as I said, this is not by any means to public shame the roadmap, but just to help you understand how you can take a look into your roadmap and understand better if you have problems with misalignment or not. If you want to learn more about the method that I'm using to look into the companies, understand if their roadmaps are strategically aligned or not, and how to fix that misalignment, go check out the link below. So in order to look into the potential ways that lack of strategic alignment might have, let's go and take a very quick look into Buffer's roadmap. I'm not going to do the deep in-depth analysis. I'll link the video in the end so you can take a look, and in the description so you can go and check it out later. But the idea first was to look into the actual strategy from Buffer. Before starting, I want to share one thing, just in case you are not familiar with Buffer. Buffer is a social media management tool that helps you build your audience in different social media companies or products like Threads, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, you name it. There's a ton of them. I don't know all of them, and I'm not in all of them. But of course, this is something that is very important for B2B and for entrepreneurs to be able to distribute the content and not having to be all the time doing it from one to the other platforms. But they have Buffer, which is a great tool to do this automatically. By the way, Buffer is probably one of the most open companies out there, which I think is incredibly valuable, and it definitely hands down, or how to say, hats off. I thank you very much for having it. Now, let's go back to what is the strategy of Buffer. Buffer's strategy was set for the first half of the year as having two main aspects. One, it was the down and wide, which mainly meant that they wanted to go deeper into the workflows that their current customers have, but also widen the scope of the integrations that they have with other platforms. That's my understanding, of course, of their down and wide strategy, which was available in one of the CEO's investor relations letters, if I recall correctly. The other one was reintroducing the public API, which basically opens their ecosystem, allowing integrations and scaling the reach through developers. This is a very powerful strategy, I think. The down and wide, mainly what it's talking is that they are just going after their core audience. It's more of a retention strategy than necessarily a growth strategy. That's my understanding. The reintroducing the public API has the potential for growth much more than the other one, because it potentially opens new ideas, new solutions that could be built either by themselves, because they probably can use their own public API, but also by external developers that might build solutions that potentially might be sold to other companies, basically making more solutions, or the solution wider to different type of problems that potentially at this moment are not really solved. So now let's take a quick look to the roadmap itself. What I did now is that I use the same table as I used in my review. I use the same features. As you can understand, the features probably have changed. This was done a month ago. Probably now there's new features that are in plan or in progress or in beta. I only took the ones that are in those 3 stages, and I didn't take all of them because there's a lot of them in that roadmap, and that would make it a very, very long video to create. But what I did is, okay, for all these ones, take a look now, and which one of them do I think they have a strategic alignment. So I added a new column with whether they are or not strategically aligned. So there is one clearly scheduled and published via API, which is related to the public API. So as much as I can understand, which definitely it's going to be aligned to their strategy. And the other ones that I think that are aligned to the strategy are these ones. So all the first 6, 7, I believe, 6 features here, which definitely are helping expanding the solutions for their current customers, or potentially having better integrations with some of the products they already have, for example, Instagram and so on. So things that really look like they are going to help their strategic goals. So those would be the 7 items that, in my opinion, really are going to be strategically aligned. The rest, I think that they are nice to have and that they are potentially important, but they are not necessarily aligned with their strategy. So you could argue whether their strategy is not wide enough, or whether these items should be prioritized at this point because of not being strategically aligned. And yes, there are certain items which I have highlighted here that you could argue that potentially could be considered to be strategically aligned, but they are a little bit on the maybe nice to have and something that could help the current or expand the growth in the current customer base, but maybe not necessarily the ones that are going to be as important maybe as the ones that are in the top. So I would say that right now there's 7 that are clearly strategically aligned, 4 which are kind of in the middle, and then there's the rest of them. This is a total of 19 items. So the next steps to really start calculating what is the potential costs of a strategic misalignment, or the potential savings or reinvestment of money, we had to look first on how much is the potential misalignment or the strategic alignment that currently it's in Buffer's roadmap. Again, with a caveat, I don't know the reality of everything that is there, and I really haven't talked with anybody in Buffer to really understand better in depth what are these items and if I am really getting the context correctly. But right now what we have is 7 items which are clearly strategically aligned, and out of 19, which gives us around a 36% of the items, features, opportunities that they have in the roadmap, which are strategically aligned. In order to really do the calculation, what I wanted to do next is to look into the number of people in the R&D team, meaning on the product team. Let's talk about product team with being the people that are in R&D, plus the people that are in product management, product design, and so on. Given that they have around 245 people in LinkedIn as part of their personnel for the company, again, this is a rough number, it's not necessarily the absolute truth, but in most of the cases, for most of the tech companies out there, R&D size is around 25% of the cost of the company. So usually it's around 25%, just to do a simple math, of the headcount. This means that around 61 people in the company are working either in R&D or some type of role. And next, we had to estimate a cost per FTE. What is the cost, not the salary, the cost of the personnel per year for Buffer? I did an estimate of 120K USD, so dollars, American dollars for the cost. I think it's in the conservative side, mainly because they also have personnel in other countries, not just in the US. So I can imagine that potentially the costs is maybe a little bit lower than if they would have most of the development in the US, which probably would rise that cost per FTE quite a bit. That's my guess, because well, I'm not sure how is it in the US, but usually in Finland, when you have your salary, if you add a 50% extra, then you usually get about the costs per FTE. So what I did use next is an ROI calculator that helped me look into the potential savings that Buffer could be having if they have a more strategically aligned roadmap. So what you had to do here, if you want to try this one, the link is in the description down below, so go check it out. It's fairly easy to use. You just put the size of the R&D team and product. So that we said that was 61 people. We had the average price or cost per FTE. So we leave it at 120K, which is, in my opinion, pretty conservative. Then we have the percentage or the current strategic alignment. And this is what I calculated earlier as the 36%. And if you think about what would be the target for strategic alignment, so we could say that a target that is realistic is a 75%. 100% is never going to be realistic unless you are in the very early stages of your product. If you have a product that is out, there's going to be a 20-something% of time of effort that goes into maintenance work. So if we think that this is our criteria, that this is the current situation, how much money potentially Buffer could be reinvesting in other efforts in the company that are more strategically aligned, this is what the value would be. So 2.8 million cost or annual savings or reinvested money that could go to other efforts that at this point is not going to what is strategically aligned with what they have as goals. Of course, you could argue that, hey, you have some of them there that potentially could be changed. And that's true. We could consider that there's a little bit more items, and we could say that, okay, let's be a little bit more generous and say that the strategic alignment is 45 approximately, and maybe 75 is not super realistic, but maybe a 65 is more realistic. You're still talking about almost $1.5 million per year that could be reinvested in the R&D team of 61 people, which is quite a bit of money when you think about it. And one thing to take into account, this was the roadmap for half a year. This doesn't mean that the potential annual savings will be twice, because I don't know about the size of the features or the opportunities that they are going after. But the reality is that there is a ton of potential savings that can be done, or a ton of potential. Just not think about savings, just think money that could be really focused much more into your strategic goals that really could help you advance your goals as a company, your goals as a product. So if you want to start changing how your teams work and that they are focused much more in being strategically aligned, go check out the program that I put together that you can find in the description down below. Again, I want to say that Buffer, I don't think that it's a completely different, it's not a disaster. There is quite much content there that is strategically aligned, and there are some items there that are not super clear to me whether they are strategically aligned or not. So having somewhere around 45% of a strategic alignment is not completely terrible compared to what you can see in some companies out there, which is probably way less. But there's always things that can be done to improve. And the goal of this, again, as I said earlier, is not to shame Buffer, it's just to explain that this, or show how this is a real problem that companies have out there, and how you can start looking into potentially being more strategically aligned and really defining strategies that really help you grow, that really help you move your product towards the direction that you want it to be in the future, instead of just trying to figure out what should be the features that you should add to the next roadmap, which sadly is the case for many companies out there. I doubt that this is a problem for Buffer. Looks like they're a very healthy company and that people that are working with it seems to love it quite much, not just their own workers, but their customers as well. Obviously, that's what drives the business in the end. If you want to know more about the strategic alignment of Buffer's public roadmap, go check out this video. I'll see you in the next one.